Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got a fantastic guest for you today, Alex Schlinsky, founder, CEO of Prospecting on Demand. Looks like he's got a book out also, Hustler's Handbook. We'll talk about that. He comes out from Tampa, Florida, and I'm really happy to have an entrepreneur distinguished such as himself on the show. So, Alex, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know, like I said, we're a business entrepreneurship podcast, and we kind of start off with your story and how you can help the audience.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I run a digital marketing mastermind for agency owners, coaches, and consultants. I do corporate sales consulting, and I also help small businesses locally in my community on a pro bono basis to help them build better connections with their local community. I'm also an author. I wrote the anti-hustles handbook, actually. So just a slightly different model. I kind of go against the grain when it comes to hustling. My background is, both my parents were entrepreneurs. It made me want to become an entrepreneur as I grew up. Moving into college, I was running a side hustle marketing agency at roughly $10,000 a month for 4 years, working with attorneys. I parlayed that thereafter into a much larger agency after I finished school and married my wife. And then we sold that business off essentially and started running a mastermind for coaching, events, community-driven models. It's been a crazy journey. In the midst of that, I ended up unfortunately having open heart surgery, which is a 0 out of 5 stars. Don't recommend, not a fun experience. But that led me to write the book, The Anti-Hustler's Handbook, talking a little bit about how overworking and being very focused on the capitalist mindset at all times and prioritizing work over everything led to some really serious health issues that I try to avoid, other entrepreneurs to go through, especially young and hungry entrepreneurs as well. So that's essentially the quick recap, if you will.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I kind of to start it off, how do you balance this desire to, because you're early, you're young, you want to make your mark in the world, kind of 20s, 30s, 40s, and then after that you give back. And so how do you balance this drive and this hustle and this work ethic that you have to have versus, taking care of yourself and, people say work-life balance.
Yeah, I knew that was going to come. Yeah, I feel like work-life balance is just a facade or an esoteric comment, just as much as success is esoteric or happiness is esoteric or financial freedom is esoteric. The reality is, like, I hear very commonly for any entrepreneur I work with and any walk of life in any business, whether they're 18 years old and just starting or they're 45 years old and been grinding for a long time, they all say the same kind of hot button, hot topic words, right? Like, I want to make more money. I want to be successful. I want to be financially free. I want to have time freedom, location independence. Like, these are common tropes that we hear entrepreneurs speak on consistently, regardless of your socioeconomic status, what you do, what your career has been or will be. It's pretty common. The obstacle ends up being that most people don't actually define what those things mean. So when they say, I want to be successful, you're in a room of 10,000 people and they all say, I want to be successful. Do you really think 10,000 people have the same definition of success? The ugly truth, unfortunately, is most people don't even know what their own definition of success is. They're either allowing their spouse to choose it, their friends to choose it, their boss to choose it, their mentor to choose it, the online guru that they follow to choose it, a book that they read to choose it, their parents to choose it. They almost never actually take any work or effort to identify and decide what they want to do. So what I've come up with in the book is this concept of the define, design, do model. Hustle culture tells you to just do, right? Do for the sake of doing. Now, in a general sense, for beginners, doing is great, right? Doing is action, creates data, which creates optimizations, which in turn creates better actions, which creates better data, which creates better optimizations, right? Like, in a general sense, doing is good when you are lack of doing, when you're struggling to identify what should I do or how should I do, or I'm overwhelmed with doing. Just taking action is a big win. But the problem is that taking action becomes kind of the operating system for entrepreneurs in a general sense, like just consistently doing things and not really understanding where they're going or why. The metaphor I consistently use is like, who wins in a race, a long distance runner or a short distance runner? Well, the prerequisite question before you can answer that would be, how long is the race? And that's the thing. Like, when you say that you want to be successful, there's no milestone or finish line or race that you're running. So how are you supposed to know like what the stamina is required, right? And hustle culture's is prevalent everywhere. Like it's on kids baseball, kids little league baseball jerseys, like hustle harder, like give 110%. Like it's everywhere, right? And so the concept of taking any time to identify what you want is so strange and foreign to people. The concept that I try to help people understand consistently is if you take the time to really identify what you want in your life, you're exercising your agency. And I don't mean like your marketing agency or your business. I mean your agency like as a human being, your choice. If you don't have a boss telling you what to do, right? At the end of the day, everyone will become your boss if you don't know what you're working towards because they're the ones dictating your life on their terms. If you want to dictate your life on your terms, which inherently is the entire like idea of being an entrepreneur, right? If you don't actually dictate, this is what I want my life to look like, this is how I want to build, right? This is what I want to achieve, then you're never going to actually be able to achieve anything or be successful. The chase is the thing that becomes the drug. And so you're out there hunting, you bring back the kill, your family's saying, we have enough, but you're already out there hunting again. The reason why most people I see don't actually take the time to identify their success is one, they're worried they don't know what success is. Like that's a really common problem and trope. They don't know what success means to them. So they lean on other people in the world to tell them what success means, whether it's, like societal, like charity, or whether it's materialistic, like buy a Lamborghini, or it's a financial, like you have to make $1 million or you're a bad person, as an example. Or the second reason is they're fearful they'll never achieve it, right? And so the thing that I recommend to most entrepreneurs is just like identify, you want to be successful. What does that mean to you? Without any societal pressures, without any financial pressures, with just the consideration of if you can identify why success matters to you, how can you actually tangibly have success, right? I think about it in like a concept of a baby, right? Like my son is 3 years old. If he says, I want ice cream, right? And I go get him chocolate ice cream, but then he says, I wanted vanilla. And he's very, very upset that I got him the wrong thing, right? The concept is his lack of intentionality, because he's a little baby, right, has put me in a bind in a situation where now he's dissatisfied, even though I gave him the thing I wanted or he wanted. And that's so common for entrepreneurs. I want to be successful. And all of these KPIs are saying, you've made money, you have time, freedom, whatever, but you don't feel success because you never said you wanted chocolate ice cream. You just said, I wanted success. And that's what I see very commonly. So write it down, identify really what you want. Go to antihustlehandbook.com. You can find our kind of worksheets on how to do that. But in general sense, it really comes down to actually defining it and not being worried if you can never achieve it. Because most of the time, even if you want something outrageous, like I want a Bugatti Veyron, you might be really happy when you buy your, Range Rover. That's the concept.
Yeah, I love that. And what's really interesting is, kind of this narrow definition of success by the mainstream Western media. We all know now a lot of it's propaganda. And so one question I have for you from the audience is they're listening to this, they're like, okay, get clarity. I don't want to be a lawyer like my dad. I don't want to be a doctor like my mom. I don't have to build the next $1 billion company. And once they get clear on that, what happens if their boundaries and their values conflict with society, with their parents? How do they exercise those boundaries?
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, it's a really good question. At the end of the day, what it comes down to that like I have a core belief of two really critical concepts. Like number one, at the end of the day, we're on a flying rock in the middle of space, and no one really knows what the hell is going on. We all have a definite amount of time. No one, no matter your socioeconomic status, your race, your religion, your beliefs, where you come from, your location, irrelevant. We all have 24 hours in a day, and we all are guaranteed to die. I mean, that is just the reality of the life that we have, this kind of weird situation that we're all in. And so the concept that anyone has the right to dictate to you exactly how it should be led, probably a bit unreasonable, right? Number two, to that concept would be there are, of course, people in your life that are very, very important in identifying what those boundaries need to be. Now, if you're single and you have no parents and you have no friends, or you are just a complete loner in society, then maybe you wouldn't. But the percentage of people that are that way is extremely, 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 extremely small. pretty much everyone has dependents, right? And I mean, not independence, dependents, like they have kids or they have a spouse or a partner or they have parents or they have brothers and sisters, like common knowledge of life, right? There's also the esoteric dependence of God, right? Like a lot of people have that as something really important. And who am I to tell you whether or not that's a facade or not? I think it's such a sanctimonious thing to be like, oh, that doesn't matter. If it matters to you, then it matters. That's the point. So how do you deal with those tribal lines when there's clearly a distinction? Like my parents are Republican, but I'm a Democrat, as an example, as something as ugly as politics. Well, it starts with uncomfortable conversations, right? It starts with uncomfortable conversations. Your ability to achieve what you want in your life is on the other side of discomfort. That's what it is, right? Discomfort ultimately proves to be a consistent approach to adversity, which equals opportunity, which equals growth, right? I'm not saying it's going to be an easy conversation with your spouse if you and her have a completely different opinion on how success should be deemed, or if you and your parents, they have expectations of you that you can't match. But at the end of the day, the core value of your relationship, the love, care, support, and desire to see one another succeed in your terms, meaning in the terms of that person, should supersede any of the terms that they are trying to put the bearings upon you. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's certainly not going to be easy. It was easier for me because, my parents and my siblings were all about me being an entrepreneur and wanting time freedom and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean every single thing that I've ever had has been easy, that all my mentors, all of my people that I cared about agreed with every single model that I have set forth. But at the end of the day, it's my life and no one else's.
Yeah, I love that. And then kind of, I know we have around 8 to 9 minutes, and I really love this idea because what it's talking about is you were hinting at working smarter. So a lot of individuals, like a lot of doctors on this podcast, they're so used to this whole sacrifice and this hustle, which we talked about. And so, but then, trading time for money. And how do you get them to understand to work smarter, to go from, freelance trading time for money to into a CEO, a business owner, so they can continue to make profits and scale without burning themselves into the ground?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, again, like I think the first realization is just recognizing that it's hard. One of the core values I live by is a concept that a problem well explained is a problem half solved. I find the concept to be very valuable. I told you I had heart surgery. I was born with a bicuspid aortic valve. I didn't know about it until I was 18 years old. The ignorance is bliss model fit very well from the time that I have earliest memories, probably like 5 or 6 years old to 18 prior to being told I had the problem. I was happy-go-lucky. I had ignorance. I had zero idea that I had any heart issue, underlying problem. I was fine, right? Obviously, once that Pandora's box is open, there's no going backwards. There's no unfinding out that you have the heart problem, right? But the reality is a problem half explained is a problem well solved. I'll give you this example, right? People use ignorance as bliss as a crutch too often. God forbid, right? If I never found out about my heart problem and no one ever told me, would I have died from a heart attack at 31 years old when my wife was pregnant or when my son was 1 or 2? Or would it have been better to have found out about it, dealt with the circumstances of the challenge of finding out, but being able to solve it? It's the big C word, right? Like, how many people walk around with cancer right now at a terminal stage, but they have no idea? Is ignorance really bliss? No, they're going to suddenly die and have no idea why. Whereas if they had found out, a year ago, yeah, it sucks to find out, but guess what? You can solve it, right? I'm a big, big believer of that concept. So first and foremost, if you know that that's the problem, that you're overworking, you're trading time for money, you've been grinding for a long time, it's just a really common trope to be punishing yourself. Like, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I'm doing this. This is not what I signed this up for. Can't believe I've been stuck in this for 2 decades. Old dog can't learn new tricks. And it's just all facade. It's all fake. It's all not true. It's just a game that your brain plays on you to make you feel shittier, because that's our own worst enemy, is the concept, right? And so what you're going to do is pretty simple. You're going to identify what the problem is. Half of the problem is now solved. And then you're going to work towards a solution. What's the solution? It's the obvious. It's the understanding of identifying what does it take to become the CEO level doctor. Well, that means you're probably going to work less with patients one-to-one. And that might change your life quite drastically if you've been doing it for 5, 10, 15, 20, or 25 plus years. It's going to make a big difference. And you're going to have to hire a younger doctor, someone to take over the majority of the responsibilities so you can oversee it. And you're also going to have to be okay with being bored. One of the concepts that I try to talk to my entrepreneurs and friends and consultants with, is this, or colleagues with, excuse me, is this concept of being bored. I remember when we were younger, the concept of being bored was so foreign, like such a weird thing, like, wow, I'm so bored, right? And now in day and age, like I said, I have a 3-year-old son. I run 2 different businesses. I do a lot. There's never boredom. Like, I'm never bored. I am constantly filled with stimuli and things I have to do. There is no boredom anymore. And I want to find boredom. Like, I want to get to a place where I'm bored. If I am bored, that means I have done such a great job of removing all potential distractions that now I've forced myself in a vacuum of like, what do I do with this time? What a great gift that would be, right? Like, what a great gift that would be to you, doctor, who's listening to this right now and being like, I have never been bored since I was 14 years old, and you're 50, right? Like, perfect example. The other concept also is like, the esoteric language of I want to be financially free and I want to have time freedom. There's another one that I think is more important for most people, and that's being worry free. Being worry free. Like, there should be a lot of gratitude that we have in the world that we are living in, because at the end of the day, particularly if you're a doctor, part of the crappy part of being a doctor is the amount of people you speak to that are doing really bad. Like, either they have problems that can't be solved, or they have terminal diagnoses, or they have lingering, chronic issues. That's what, now your job is to help mitigate it. But at the end of the day, it sucks to be those people, right? It sucks. There's no question about it, right? There's no ultimate reality that, oh, having cancer is a worthy adversity model most people should go through. No one's going to say that. No one, right? And so if you don't have that, if you aren't struggling with putting food on the table, if you aren't having a hard time paying your taxes, because you have the money to do so, if you have the ability to put your kids in private school, if you have kids, if you have a spouse, if you have your health, like, maybe a little bit of gratitude would go a longer way. And I think that's a pretty consistent theme. So one of my main mantras and my success KPIs is being worry free. That's what I'm working towards on a consistent basis, becoming more worry free. And it's hard. I'm not being sanctimonious or saying I'm doing it great. I'm not, but I journal about it every day. What did I worry about today? How can I not worry about it tomorrow? And then from there, just trying to improve every single day. That's the model.
I love that. How can people reach out to you and find out more about you? Because I know you help freelancers get out of this trap and scale and make their businesses profitable, as well as your book. And then how can people reach you?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you go to antihustlehandbook.com, you could message me right on that website, or you can go to my other website, Prospecting on Demand, which is my main company. The book's on Amazon. It's like $15. Strongly recommended. I put a lot of effort and work into it. Took almost 2 years to write. And I tell everyone this, and I'll tell it to you now before we wrap up so you can hear this clearly. I wrote the book for myself as much as I did for you, right? Because I understand the anti-hustle mantra, because I know what this is all about and how important it is, doesn't mean that I do it perfectly, right? You as a doctor who's required to support, you have the Hippocratic Oath to support your patients. Do you prioritize your health perfectly every single time? Of course not. It's impossible, right? Why is the trope of the cobbler shoes are the worst, right? The housekeeper's house is the dirtiest. I'm the same. I still am in many ways stuck in hustle culture. I still am in many ways not defining my own success. Me doing these podcasts, me writing that book, me sharing this mantra over and over with other people is also my therapy to ensure that I hold myself accountable. Never do I come across in a way that I am better than you, smarter than you, figured out. It's the exact opposite. I am in the trenches with you. I get it. I understand it. And hopefully a little bit more transparency in the world that we're in will create a little bit better of an experience for the amount of people that really need help, which is a lot. So hopefully that gives you the right insight. Antihustlehandbook.com, prospectingondemand.com, or find me wherever you like. I'm all over the place.
I love that. And for all the audience, let's be sure to give Alex his socials a like and follow, and check out his book. And thanks so much for